Story 1. I once sneezed so hard that my head jerked forward and hit the bathroom faucet, resulting in a concussion. That was definitely not my finest moment. Story 2. I'm either clumsy or just a magnet for strange and foolish injuries. I tripped over my untied shoelaces in front of a school bus, which hit me going only 5 miles per hour, but that didn't prevent me from falling and injuring my fingers and wrists. I let a spider land on me, thinking it was harmless since I'm from an area with non-venomous spiders. It bit me, and I later discovered my new home had venomous spiders. I ended up with red streaks leading to my heart and tissue death. I stood in the ocean, allowing waves to hit me in the chest, and bruised my ribs. I walked outside during a windstorm, removed my sunglasses to watch debris flying around, and got hit in the eye by a piece of flying debris, which scratched my cornea. I walked behind a tennis instructor and got accidentally struck in the skull with a tennis racket. A concussion followed, along with lifelong headaches. Story 3. Trying to catch a frisbee resulted in breaking 2 bones, requiring immediate surgery to install plates. Story 4. I went to squat down, but there was a music stand behind me. As I squatted, I accidentally swiped the music stand. Story 5. When I was a kid, I had a Beyblade, and out of curiosity, I took some razor blades, broke them in half, and attached them to the top of the Beyblade. Then it was time to test it. The moment it started to spin, the blades were very close to my fingers, and I cut almost 3 of my fingers, not very deep but enough that they started to bleed. To hide it from my mom, I used some electrical tape to wrap around my fingers to stop the bleeding. That night, I prayed that it would be fixed by the next morning when I opened my eyes. Story 6. I tried to consume 5 paracetamol tablets at the same time to help me sleep and distract myself from my problems, but I ended up experiencing psychosomatic symptoms. Story 7. I spent an hour lifting weights with perfect form. It was a great workout. I felt good, accomplished, and healthy. I threw out my back, putting the weights back on the rack. But at least I re-racked them, unlike some of the gym goers who were too busy flexing in the mirrors. Story 8. I jammed my thumb to the point of needing a wrap to brace it from trying to take off my sock. I also broke my ankle while skipping in elementary school. Story 9. I fell on the stairs while going up. It was 2 a.m., and with no light, I thought I had reached the top. Instead, I fell and landed all my weight on my shin. It hurt tremendously and caused infections. After many paragraphs of explaining, I now have permanent swelling. The most foolish incident led to my worst injury. Story 10. I found a pair of shoes once in the back of my closet. These are cute. Why did I stop wearing them? I took a step to go downstairs and immediately slipped, causing my back to hit every step. Story 11. In December, I was walking through a park and slipped in the grass, tearing my hamstring. I am still in physical therapy and doing modified work. Story 12. I thought that if I pulled 2 dogs away from each other, they would stop fighting. That resulted in an unexpected trip to the emergency room. Story 13. I was walking and tripped over my own feet while coming off a step. I landed on my foot and fractured it. Story 14. One time, I tried to open a frozen pack of hot dogs and stabbed myself in the area between my thumb and forefinger. I usually dislike blood, so I am still surprised that I did not pass out. I was around 9 years old. Story 15. I went camping in Cornwall for my 25th birthday. People were jumping over a campfire, and a friend dared me to do a forward somersault over it. Being drunk, I took him up on it and even tried to light my cigarette as I went over. I cleared the fire but landed on the side of my head and right shoulder. I cleanly snapped my collarbone in half, and it was sticking out of my skin. Drink in moderation, everyone. Story 16. I was a bit intoxicated and decided to cook a large piece of salmon. I started it in the pan and finished it in the oven. When it was done, I neglected to put on an oven glove and somehow managed to get the pan out and put it back on the stove before I realized, wait, this really hurts? Put it down. I had second-degree burns and blisters for about a week. Story 17. I sprained my ankle during a math test because I had been sitting on my foot, causing it to fall asleep. It was the Spice Girls era, and I was wearing giant platform sandals. When I took a step, my foot just flopped over. I was very embarrassed. Story 18. I was 6 or 7 years old and accidentally pulled my mom's shop door back, completely ripping off my big toenail. The best part is that I didn't notice it at all. It was only after my mom questioned why there were blood smears on the floor that she realized where it was coming from. When I looked down and saw it, I burst into tears. Story 19. Being angry and thinking I had to hit something, I decided it was best to punch the couch since it was soft. I hit it with full force and struck the edge of the wooden frame. As a result, I broke my hand quite badly. One of my knuckles is still deformed 10 years later. I can still hear the sound the punch made. Story 20. Oh, where to start? I slipped in the bathroom on a few drops of water and landed hard on my knee, which caused my heel to hit the ground and bruised my butt. I managed to fall into a hole while sledding and injured my other knee. I fell 2 inches off a sidewalk and sprained my ankle. I also cut myself with a fork. I fell down the stairs and landed on my butt. I hit my nose on my boyfriend's chin and gave myself a concussion. Story 21. Cleaning an aquarium as one does at least once a month. I had already mixed tank conditioner with the specified amount of water and set it aside. I got a little thirsty while talking to someone on the phone and, without thinking, started drinking from that mixture. It looked similar to water. Everyone had a laugh after calling poison control. It turns out it wasn't lethal and only caused minor irritation. Story 22. I used to be a locksmith. When installing or replacing locks, you often need to make a 54mm hole in the door using a hole saw. Every time I put the hole saw in my drill, I held the hole saw and the chuck of the drill steady, pulled the trigger, and closed the chuck until it gripped the hole saw. For whatever reason, this time my brain thought it would be easier to hold the hole saw in place with my index finger resting on the teeth of the hole saw. Unsurprisingly, my finger offered no resistance to the rapidly spinning, very sharp teeth of the hole saw. There was no immediate blood, but I knew I had seriously hurt myself, so I grabbed the finger with my other hand and rushed out to the van. At this point, the blood had started, so I washed it and wrapped it in some bandages. They quickly turned red with blood seeping through, so I added another layer, and they seemed to hold up. I finished that job and the rest of my afternoon at work before heading home, where my wife, who is a nurse, could assess the damage. In the end, I couldn't bear her taking everything off the finger, so off to the doctor we went. The doctor was very impressed with how I strapped up my finger, but did use the word mangled when describing what was underneath. It wasn't that bad, though, as she was able to stitch it all back together and then wrap it up so comically large that my finger looked like E.T. Story 23. I tripped over the sidewalk and tore my meniscus. Before I was diagnosed, it sometimes felt like I needed to crack or pop a joint. I would kick my leg out hard to pop it. I later learned that my meniscus was torn and folded over, so every time I did that, I was slamming it between my upper and lower leg bones. Story 24. I injured my back while twisting awkwardly to grab the television remote because I was too lazy to sit up and reach for it. Story 25. I was wringing out a mop, the same mop I use every day that doesn't require any special effort or technique, and my lower back just decided to pop and hurt for a month. I didn't even bend over. I just pushed the handle to make it ring. Story 26. I was hanging a new blind in the bathroom, standing on the tiled area behind the bathtub. When I turned to climb down, I slipped. I hit the vanity with my arm and landed on the tile floor on my knees. I tore my anterior cruciate ligament, broke my fibula, dislocated my shoulder, cracked a couple of ribs, and broke my little finger. Story 27. I turned off the lights before walking up the basement steps. I walked into a wall and broke my nose, but I didn't seek medical attention at the time. This led to breathing issues and nasal polyps, requiring surgery a few years later. Story 28. I had already strained my intercostal muscles from sneezing. I was in considerable pain, so I was shifting in a chair at the shop while my mum and aunt tried on every dress available. I leaned my head back quickly, not realizing there was a metal pipe behind me. They stopped shopping when I started bleeding, and I had a significant concussion. My mum laughed at the noise of pain I made until she saw the blood on the floor around me. Story 29. I dislocated my shoulder during an otherwise extremely mundane missionary position. It was a funny way to find out that I have a connective tissue disorder, which is not normal. Story 30. Oh, I was injured, but the thing that was hurt the most was my dignity. I was riding a bike with my friend following me on his own bike. When I turned my head back to talk to him and then looked forward again, I crashed right into a road sign. Felt like something out of a cartoon. Unfortunately, I was the coyote, not the roadrunner. Story 31. I have many experiences. One nearly resulted in me chopping my thumb off while trying to open a battery package with a tool. After the blood settled, I discovered the package was easy to open from the back. Story 32. I fell off a child's skateboard in my kitchen about 6 weeks ago and injured my heel badly. The worst part is that as I stood on it, I thought it was really dangerous and then did it anyway. I am still regretting it now. Story 33. I turned around on a mild slope. At the time, I was larger and wearing decent hiking boots. When I attempted to turn around by rotating on the ball of my right foot, my hiking boots gripped, and my foot didn't rotate. Instead, the rest of my body rotated, resulting in an injury to my ankle halfway up my shin. I snapped my tibia and fibula, requiring a metal rod to be inserted in my tibia. This occurred while role-playing, and over the years, many people have recounted my injury to me. Apparently, the sound of my leg snapping is ingrained in quite a few people's memories. Story 34. I was lying on my bed once and accidentally kneed myself in the face, causing a nosebleed. When I was a child, I placed a bottle of spray paint on a fixed drill and drilled into it. It exploded, burned off my eyebrows, and launched me across the room. I was unconscious for a few seconds and woke up on my back to see flames spilling from the can. Story 35. People who attempted those TikTok trends, such as the Skull Breaker Challenge, have been notably quiet since this incident occurred. Story 36. I closed my fingers in the car door. My arm was across my face, fingers at the top of the door, and I pulled the door closed with my other hand. How I accomplished this is a mystery to this day. I also fall down frequently on uneven pavement. Story 37. I used to be a postman and I walked into hanging baskets 3 times, resulting in 3 concussions. One time, I fell unconscious, and the nice old man who lived there picked me up off the floor. He said I had been down for about 30 seconds. Always fun. Story 38. I was trying to see if I could fit through the dog door. I got halfway and tried to get my arm through at an awkward angle, and I dislocated it. Story 39. I was 8 when this happened. I was jumping on the sofa, and a toothpick went into my heel. Half of the toothpick was inside my heel, and the pain was really bad. Whoever left that toothpick, that was not very nice of you. Story 40. I sliced open a finger while doing the dishes. I dropped a wine glass, and although I didn't try to catch it, the glass hit the bottom of the sink just right, shattering and bouncing back up, leaving a significant gash on my pinky that required stitches. 5 years later, the same hand but a different finger. I didn't move my hand while using a guillotine paper cutter at work. I chopped right on the knuckle, bled everywhere, passed out at my desk and had to get stitches again. I am a danger to my fingers. Story 41. Trying to get up off the couch. I have arthritis in my spine, and every so often, the act of doing absolutely nothing will aggravate it, making it difficult for me to stand upright for a few days. Story 42. At the driving range, I dropped the golf ball I was about to place on the tee. It bounced off the concrete floor, and I made a split-second decision to swing the club and try to hit the ball at the top of its arc. I managed to hit only the top of the ball, which drove it down into the concrete and rebounded up, hitting me between the eyes. For a few seconds, I could smell colors and taste sounds. Story 43. I chipped a fingernail and later in the day, while rubbing my eyes, I accidentally cut my eyelid. Story 44. I was trick-or-treating and looking into my candy bag while walking, trying to see if the last house gave me good treats or garbage. I walked face first into a mailbox and almost broke my nose. Story 45. I was a child when this happened. I received perfume as a gift. There was a candle burning for Christmas on the kitchen table. My sister was teaching me to make a flame jump. My hand caught fire. That is the worst pain I have ever felt. Story 46. At 14, I participated in a three-legged race with a friend. Each person sticks one leg inside a burlap bag, and you hold up the bag while trying to hop or run to win the race. We both fell. I landed on my left side, and my friend fell on top of me, which broke my collarbone. This was about a week before school ended, and I didn't do much that summer. Story 47. Knocked a kitchen knife off the counter and tried to catch it. 17 stitches later. Repeat after me. A falling knife has no handle. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.